The moment I drove up the winding mountain road, I knew something was off. My brand new home, the one I had saved for years to fix up, wasn't empty. Instead, the lawn was full of moving boxes, a bright pink minivan idling in the driveway, and a woman standing on my porch waving her arms like she owned the world. "You can't be here. This is our property," she yelled. Her voice carried across the valley, sharp and angry. I parked my truck slowly, heart racing. "Excuse me, but this is my house," I said, trying to stay calm. She smirked, dialing her phone as if calling the authorities was the natural next step. I called the HOA and the cops. "You need to leave, now." Her husband peeked from behind the door, arms crossed, sneering at me like I'd somehow trespassed in someone else's life. I froze for a second. This was supposed to be my dream, my quiet escape. But instead, it felt like a trap. And then I noticed the security camera they had installed, pointed right at my front door. Their confidence made me uneasy. Little did they know, I had already checked the property records and the papers were in my name, but proving it wouldn't be easy. Not with them screaming, filming, and threatening me as if their fake authority could make the mountain itself obey them. I took a deep breath, trying to think fast while Karen's glare pinned me in place like a hunter spotting prey. That's when I realized this wasn't going to be just a fight over land. Something about her arrogance felt personal, almost like she wanted me to react. I stepped closer, trying to keep my voice steady. "Look, I know this is confusing, but I have the deed right here." I pulled it from my backpack, waving the crisp papers at her. Karen's eyes narrowed, but instead of backing down, she laughed, a sharp, mocking sound. "Deed? Do you think that matters here? The HOA rules say—" She stopped herself, glancing nervously at her husband. That was my first clue. She didn't fully understand what she was doing. Her husband stepped forward, blocking my path. "We're just protecting our home," he said, though his smirk betrayed him. I noticed the security camera blinking red, recording everything. Suddenly, an idea sparked. "Funny," I said slowly, "because my lawyer told me the HOA can't enforce anything without proof, and they definitely didn't approve this." Karen's face twisted. "We're filing right now. You'll regret this." Before she could finish, my phone buzzed, a notification from the smart lock on my side door. I had secretly installed it last week. A click sounded and the door opened from the inside. "You forgot one thing," I said, stepping into my own house. Her jaw dropped. "What?" "That's impossible," she stammered. I motioned to the door. "It's my home. And yes, I can enter whenever I want." She lunged forward, yelling, but I held my ground. Then the first twist hit. The security camera's feed was being transmitted live to my phone. Every threat, every lie they tried to say was being recorded, uncut. I smirked. "Smile, Karen, you're on record." Her anger shifted to panic. "Delete that." "Delete it now!" she screamed. But I stayed calm. I had the mountain, the deed, and now proof of their harassment. This wasn't just about land anymore. It was about exposing them step by step. Karen's face turned red, her hands shaking as she waved at her husband. "Call the cops! Tell them he's trespassing," she shrieked, like shouting louder would magically make the law bend in her favor. I stayed on the porch, leaning casually against the railing. "Go ahead," I said. "But maybe you should check who actually owns this house first." Minutes later, 2 police cars appeared at the bottom of the driveway. Karen grinned triumphantly, pointing at me. "There, see? They're here for you." But as the officers climbed the slope, their expressions didn't match her confidence. They glanced at the deed in my hand, then at the security camera feed streaming live on my phone. One of them raised an eyebrow at Karen. "Ma'am, did you call us about a dispute over property you don't legally own?" Her face froze. She sputtered, trying to justify herself. "Well, the HOA," the officer interrupted. "We'll need to see your documentation." That's when her husband paled, muttering under his breath. I could almost hear his thoughts. "We didn't think he'd have proof ready." I smiled faintly. "It's all here. Everything legal, everything recorded." The officer stepped closer, scanning the camera feed. Karen's confident smirk began to falter, replaced by panic. "You can't do this. This house, my family," she gasped. But it was too late. Every lie, every threat, every attempt to intimidate me was being documented. Then came the second twist. One of the officers whispered to me, "By the way, we recognized you. You served in special forces, right? That explains your calm under pressure." My jaw tightened. Karen had no idea who she was really messing with. Not only was I the rightful owner, but I had the training and the legal backup to make sure she couldn't escape consequences. Her mouth opened, closed, and opened again, words failing her. Meanwhile, I stepped back into my house, closing the door gently behind me. The mountain was quiet again, but the war wasn't over. I had the advantage now, and every move she made from here on would be exposed. Karen wasn't done. A few hours later, I saw her minivan parked halfway up the mountain road, boxes piled high and a clipboard in hand. She strutted down, flanked by two men who looked like they were hired muscle rather than neighbors. "We're not leaving until you hand over the keys," she shouted, her voice dripping with false authority. I stayed on the porch, arms crossed. "You really think threatening me will change anything?" I asked. One of her men stepped forward aggressively, but a whistle from my porch startled them. I had set up motion sensors along the driveway earlier. Suddenly, bright floodlights clicked on, illuminating every inch of the property. Their shadows stretched long and menacing, and Karen stumbled back, squinting. You have cameras everywhere?" she hissed. I nodded slowly. "Every move you make is recorded. You're being watched right now, live." Her panic was obvious now. She wasn't expecting me to be prepared at all. Then the boldest move yet. Karen reached into her bag and pulled out what looked like official papers, waving them dramatically. "These are emergency HOA injunctions. You can't stop us legally." I laughed softly. "Funny," I said, "because my attorney just confirmed those are forged. Fake HOA notices don't hold up in court, especially against a real deed." Her face paled. Her men glanced nervously at each other. The confidence that had fueled their intimidation was evaporating fast. Then came the third twist. A helicopter appeared overhead. My wife waved from inside, holding her phone up, streaming the scene live to the local authorities and news outlets. "Smile, Karen," I said. "You're about to go viral. For all the wrong reasons." The roar of the chopper made her shriek, and I could see the realization hit her. Her lies, threats, and fake documents were all exposed. I leaned back, letting the moment sink in. The mountain wasn't just mine. It was protected, and the truth was about to catch up with her. Karen's desperation exploded the next morning. She stormed onto the porch, flailing her arms. "This isn't over! I'm taking this to court," she shouted, her face red with fury. Her husband tried to calm her, but she shoved him aside, pacing like a caged tiger. "You don't understand. We've lived here for generations." I leaned on the railing, voice calm. "Generations? On someone else's land?" Her mouth opened, but before she could argue, a loud ding came from her phone. I had secretly tagged her car with a GPS tracker, connected to an alert system I set up after seeing the minivan earlier. Every movement she made was being logged and sent to the police liaison I had called after the first confrontation. Her hands shook as she looked at the screen. What is this?" she stammered. I smiled faintly. "Your every attempt to intimidate me is now being documented legally. Every step, every threat, every forged paper. You can't undo it." Then came the public embarrassment. Neighbors who had been watching from a distance started filming. One by one, their phones pointed at her, capturing her meltdown. The live helicopter feed from yesterday had gone viral overnight. Comments flooded social media. "Karen versus the veteran homeowner. Who does she think she is?" Her face turned pale as she realized that her reputation, not just her false claims, was crumbling in front of hundreds, maybe thousands, of people. Karen's husband finally muttered, "Maybe we should leave." But she snapped at him, refusing to back down. That's when the fourth twist hit. One of the police officers approached, holding a set of citations. "Ma'am, for trespassing and impersonating HOA officials, you're being cited. You can contest in court if you wish, but the property owner is right here." Karen froze. Her plans to intimidate and claim the house were collapsing faster than she could react. I stepped back, letting the officers handle the situation, a quiet sense of satisfaction settling in. The mountain home was mine, not just by law, but by truth and exposure. That afternoon, Karen's last card came into play. She stormed into the county office, waving what she called proof that the property somehow belonged to her family. I knew she was desperate enough to try forgery in court, but I stayed calm at home, reviewing my own hidden advantage. A box of recorded calls, security footage, and time-stamped deeds that left no room for doubt. By the time she returned, triumphant and smirking, thinking she had fooled the officials. I had already uploaded everything to a secure legal portal. I opened my front door to see her standing there holding those papers like a shield. "You think you've won?"
These are real.
"You'll see," she yelled. I smiled faintly. "Funny. My attorney already submitted all your moves, Karen. Every call, every fake notice, every threat, all logged and verified." Her eyes widened as I held up my phone. Live feeds from the cameras, the GPS tracker, and even her own social media rants were compiled in chronological order. How did you?" she stammered. That's when the sixth twist hit. One of the county clerks appeared behind her, whispering something urgently. I overheard. "They verified everything on the deed. Any claim you make is null. Legal action could backfire." Karen's face paled. Her confidence evaporated. Her threats felt hollow now, and even her husband couldn't meet my eyes. The mountain air felt heavier, as if the land itself had sided with me. "You really thought you could pull one over on me?" I said softly, letting the calm of my authority sink in. By evening, news of the confrontation spread in the town. People started talking, sharing clips online. Karen's last desperate attempt to twist the law was now backfiring publicly. The entire neighborhood knew the truth, and my ownership and my hidden preparations had ensured that no lie would survive scrutiny. The next morning, Karen tried one final stunt. She stormed onto my driveway with a legal team she had hastily hired, thinking sheer numbers could intimidate me. But as they approached, my phone buzzed with a live notification. Every move they made was being recorded and transmitted to my lawyer, who was already coordinating with the local authorities. Karen's bravado faltered the moment she realized she was the one under scrutiny. I stepped onto the porch, holding up my phone. "Every step you take, every claim you make, every threat, you're on record," I said calmly. One of her supposed lawyers glanced at the feed and paled, muttering, "These are airtight. You can't fake this." Then came the seventh twist. A neighbor who had watched everything unfold over the past week approached and said, "We've seen your harassment, Karen. The HOA will be notified, and your reputation is done." Her smirk faded entirely, replaced by shock and desperation. The mountain, once silent, now felt alive with witnesses, and they were all watching her unravel. Finally, the authorities arrived. Karen was cited for trespassing, filing false documents, and harassment. Her legal stunt collapsed instantly. As the officers escorted her off the property, I looked around my mountain home, feeling the weight of victory, not just for me, but for truth and justice. My family was safe, the land was mine, and the chaos Karen tried to create had exposed her for exactly who she was. The satisfaction was quiet, but powerful. I didn't need to raise my voice or retaliate aggressively. The law, preparation, and evidence did it all. As I stepped back onto my porch, watching the sun set behind the peaks, I realized this wasn't just a win for me. It was a statement. No one could take what was rightfully mine, and no one could bend the truth with lies and threats. The mountain was quiet again, but the air still held the tension of everything that had happened. I walked through my home, touching the walls I had worked so hard to secure, feeling the weight of victory settle in. My family gathered around, relief written on their faces. My wife laughed softly, shaking her head. "You didn't just buy a house. You bought peace." Karen's threats were over. Her lies, fake papers, and intimidation attempts had all been exposed. The authorities had handled the legal side, and the neighborhood now knew the truth. I stepped onto the porch, looking out over the valley below. The land stretched endlessly, untouched, wild, and completely mine. Every tree, every rock, every sunrise from this spot was a reminder of what we had fought to protect. I thought about the injustice we had faced, the false accusations, the harassment, the audacity of someone trying to claim what wasn't theirs. But it wasn't just about revenge. It was about standing up for what was right. My service, my patience, and my preparation had turned the tide without bending the law, and the sense of justice felt deep in my chest, was stronger than any anger I had felt before. As the sun dipped below the peaks, casting gold across the mountainside, I felt a swell of pride. "I didn't fight for this country to be bullied out of my own home," I said quietly to my family. "We defend our land, our rights, and each other. That's what matters." The final twist lingered in the quiet. Karen's attempts to control, intimidate, and cheat had not just failed. They had made her public humiliation permanent. The community remembered, the law remembered, and I had ensured that freedom, truth, and ownership had prevailed. My mountain home wasn't just a property. It was a symbol, and as the stars began to twinkle above the peaks, I knew this story, our fight, would be remembered not for the fear she tried to instill, but for the justice we achieved, the family we protected, and the land we truly owned. The end.